Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. I am Halilatul Najah and my friends Yahya Huzai and Nurul Nazwa will present to you about East Asia. East Asia is a sub-region of Asia which geographically covers 11,836,000 kilometers square, that 15% bigger than Europe's area. Before this, East Asia is known as East Asian Miracle. There are 6 countries in East Asia, which is Taiwan, China, Japan, Mongolia, South Korea, and North Korea. In East Asia, the population is 1,679,000,000 people, that equivalent to 21.53% of the total world population. And the GDP is 20 trillion and 800 billion dollar. Now let's move to the second part. First, China. China is the largest country in East Asia. Its area is 9,634,000 square kilometers. The population is around 1.40 billion people, which equivalent to 18.47% of the total world population. It was ranked number 1 of the total world population. China's capital is at the Beijing and the currency that they use is yuan. The official language for China country is Mandarin and the GDP is 13.61 trillion dollar. Second, Japan. Japan's area is 378,000 square kilometers. Its capital is located at the Tokyo. Its population is 126.3 million people, and the currency of Japan country is yen. Next, Japanese is the official language of Japan country. Last year, Japan's GDP is 5.71 trillion dollar. Third, Mongolia. Its area is 1,567,000 square kilometers. The population is 3.29 million people. Mongolian to Greek is the currency that Mongolia country used. The capital of Mongolia is at the Ulaanbaatar, and the official language for this country is Khalkha-Mongol. GDP for Mongolia country is around 13.85 billion dollar. South Korea. The area for this country is 99,000 square kilometers. Its capital is located in Seoul. South Korea's population is 51.3 million people. The currency that they use is South Korea won. Korean and English is the language that Koreans use. Last year, its GDP is around 2.32 trillion dollar. Lastly, Taiwan. Taiwan's area is 36,000 square kilometers only. Its population is 23.8 million people. The currency that they use is New Taiwan dollar, and Taiwan's capital is located in Taipei. Mandarin Chinese is the language that Taiwanese use, and its GDP is around 605 billion dollar. Next, North Korea. Its area is 121,000 square kilometers, and the capital is located in Pyongyang. The population of North Korea is 25.8 million people. The currency that they use is North Korea won. The official language is Korea. The GDP of North Korea is 18 billion dollar only. North Korea is run by a totalitarian regime that permits not economic freedom. That's why it's known as of the poor and least developed country in the world. Now, let's move to next part. There are 6 types of climate in East Asia. Firstly, highland climate. Highland climate is found in high mountain areas, which is Mountain Fuji in Japan and Plateau of Tibet in China. It's also known as alpine climate. Nearly every part of this climate, temperature and precipitation depends on the elevations. Secondly, humid continental. This climate experiences 4 distinct seasons and very large range of temperature. It's warm and humid summers, a cool and dry autumn, cold and harsh winters, and a warm and wet springs. This makes living in humid continental a unique experience of weather. The places that have this climate is northern of Japan, northern of China, and North Korea. Thirdly, humid subtropical. This climate is characterized by warmer, deciduous and coniferous forests that located in areas with sandy soils. This climate is in south of China, northern Taiwan, and south of Japan. Fourth, desert climate. There has two types, hot desert and cold desert. This climate is characterized by driest areas. This climate is found in Gobi Desert and Taglimakan Desert. Fifth, steppe climate. It is also known as semi-arid climate. It's characterized by a dry, grassy plain and have a rainy season which intermediates between desert climates and humid climates. This climate is found in part of the Mongolian plateau. And lastly is tropical rainy climate, or we call it as tropical wet climate. It is characterized by high temperature, heavy rainfall, high humidity, and tropical rainforests. Tropical rainforests in these areas have dense forests of broadleaf trees. This climate is found in island of Hainan and southern tip of Taiwan.
Hi guys, I will continue the discussion within 3 more points, which are environmental problem, history and culture, and organization. So let's take a look for the first point. Environmental problem. Due to the population growth and economic development contribute to many environmental problems in Asia. These include pressure on land, habitat destruction and loss of biodiversity, water scarcity and water pollution, air pollution, and global warming and climate change. Projection of future resource requirements and environmental stress are worrying, whether the focus is on population numbers alone or on the effect of poorly planned economic development in changing consumption patterns. So, it's the time for me to peel off the environmental problem that face for each country in East Asia. The first country is Japan. The biggest environmental problem that faced by this country is waste management. Due to the small size of the tiny island nation of Japan, there is a lack of space that can accommodate this trash production. Second major environmental problem is nuclear pollution. Japan maintains 1/3 of its electric production from nuclear power plants. While a majority of Japanese citizens generally support the use of existing nuclear reactor, since the nuclear accidents at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant on 11 March 2011, this support seems to have shifted to a majority wanting Japan to phase out nuclear power. Former Prime Minister Nato Kan was the first leading politician to openly voice his opposition to Japan's dependence upon nuclear energy and suggested a phasing out of nuclear energy source towards other sources of renewable energy. Thirdly, air pollution. Japan has faced a serious air pollution starting in the latter half of the 20th century. However, aggressive government policies have allowed Japanese cities to be designated by the World Health Organization (WHO) as containing some of the cleanest urban air in the world. Next, South Korea. Forest and erosion and global climate change were the environmental problem that faced by this country. Over the centuries, Korea's inhabitants have cut down most of the ancient Korean forests, with the exception of a few remote mountainous areas. The disappearance of the forest has been a major cause of soil erosion and flooding. Because of successful reforestation programs and the declining use of firewood as a source of energy since the 1960s, most of South Korea's hills in the 1980s were amply covered with foliage. Next, global climate change. South Korea is the ninth largest emitter of carbon dioxide. the South Korean government's July 28 decision to boost investment into renewable energy to reduce its reliance on foreign oil imports may provide a boost of conglomerate solar plants. Thirdly, North Korea will face deforestation and air pollution. Deforestation were because cultivation, logging, and natural disaster have all put pressure on North Korea forests. During the economic crisis of the 1990s, deforestation accelerated as people turned to the woodlands to provide firewood and foods. This in turn has led to soil erosion, soil depletion, and increased risk of flooding. Next, air pollution. This was due to burning coals, and it's the major energy source in North Korea. In fact, North Korea is building more coal power plants. North Korea ranked number 3 in the rate of death related to air pollution according to a new report Friday. Next, China. This country faces water resource problem. The water resources of China are affected by both severe water quantity shortages and severe water quality pollution. An increasing population and rapid economic growth as well as lack environmental oversight have increased water demand and pollution. China has responded by measures such as rapidly building out the water infrastructure and increased regulation as well as exploring a number of future technological solutions. Water usage by its coal-fired power station is drying up northern China. Next, deforestation. The United Nations Environment Programme (UNEP) estimates that 36% of China's closed forests are facing pressure from high population densities. That means making preservation efforts especially important. In 2011, Conservation International listed the forests of southwest Sichuan as one of the world's 10 most threatened forest regions. Lastly, climate change. It increased mortality from extreme weather events, infectious disease, poor air and water quality. Next, Mongolia. This country faces environmental issues such as air pollution. The primary sources of air pollution in Ulaanbaatar were thermal power station, smoke produced by vehicles. The country's air pollution problems are due to increased industrial activity within the country, including the burning of soft coal and airborne industrial pollution from the former Soviet Union and People's Republic of China. The heavy concentration of factories in Ulaanbaatar has polluted the environment in that area. Next, desertification. This is because of the rapid development of farming, mining industry, changes in livestock composition, and overgrazing around settlement area and water sources. The last one is water pollution. The water supply is so limited. The country had only 34.8 cubic kilometers of renewable water resources, 53% of which are used for farming. In 2000, only 77% of city dwellers and 30% of the people living in rural area had access to pure water. The last one is Taiwan. The country had faced environmental problems such as waste production. This is because of the rapid economic growth and urbanization processes has started in this country. Next, air pollution. This is because from domestic combustion, primarily the burning of fossil fuels. And the last one is deforestation. The changes of the forest area in the island due to economic factors such as agriculture and urban expansion. History and culture of Japan. By the 16th century, the country was divided into feudal fiefdoms controlled by powerful daimyo families who were protected by their samurai warriors. Then, the Battle of Sekigahara in 1,600 years, Ieyasu samurai won and their master was established as shogun. The Tokugawa shogunate held power until the Meiji Restoration in 1868, ruling over a unified country which was completely closed off to the outside world. The country was open for trade and developed apace, although the same conflict between powerful families continued, resulting in the rise of Japanese nationalism, which culminated in World War II with the attack on Pearl Harbor and led to Japan's ultimate defeat in 1945. For the culture of Japan, present-day Japanese Japan is a fascinating mix of tradition and modernity as it observes in all aspects of everyday life. For example, children are taught to value peace above their own needs and are trained to work together rather than to aspire to be independent. Next, if you are invited to Japanese home for dinner, there's a minefield of protocol to follow, beginning with the removal of your shoes before entering, arrive on time, dress appropriately and conservatively, and wait to be told where to sit. On the other hand, bowing the head is a sign of respect. 2. History of South Korea. The first was the Silla, which date from 668 to 935 AD, followed by the Goryeo 9018 to 1392. During this period, Korea was invaded by China and Mongols. This event was followed by the Joseon period 1392 to 1910, when the capital of the country was moved to Seoul in 1394 and the current Hangul Korean alphabet was introduced in 1443. By 1910, Korea was again forced under Japanese rule, becoming an annex of Japan to serve primarily as an outsourced agriculture and production center. During this time, many Koreans were forced to learn Japanese and take off Japanese name. The annexation was finally lifted in 1945 after Japan lost to World War II. Russian troops landed in the north of the Korean peninsula while American troops in the south, and the country was divided in two along the 38th parallel, which today still remains the demilitarized zone. The onset of the Cold War further divided the two Korea, and in 1950 the North invaded the South, signaling the start of the Korean War. The war ended in the stalemate in 1953, with the border reverting again to the 38th parallel. As for culture, the Korean culture is vibrant in color and steeped in history. In this slide, there was a few pictures such as temples and traditional dresses like the formal handbook that symbolize their culture. In Asia, K-pop or Korean pop has also become extremely popular. Seoul is a great place to buy CDs, DVDs, and goods from groups like Kara, Super Junior, and Shinee. Korean television series have also become well known around the world, which are dubbed into various languages and broadcast around the globe. Whether soap opera or historical drama, these stories showcase life in Korea. History and culture of North Korea. In the beginning, the history of North Korea is the same with the South Korea. But after World War II divided Korea, the United Nations began giving control of the northern region to the Soviet Union. The official history of North Korea was initiated by forming the Democratic People's Republic in 1948. In June of 1950, North Korea invaded the South and the Korean War began. The conflict ended in 1953 and is now considered the first of the Cold War confrontation in which a proxy war took place between the two superpowers in a third country. Still to this day, tension between South and North Korea and the rest of the world have remained high. In 2002, North Korea was labeled an axis of devil by US President George Bush, and the country continues with a uranium enrichment program and weapon testing. North Korea has one of the world's largest well-equipped armies and continues to harass in the southern neighbor. As for the culture, the contemporary culture of North Korea has roots in the rich, ancient culture of the peninsula. The country's day-to-day ideology has been strongly influenced by Juche, introduced in 1948 with the communist dictatorship. Juche culture is based on a belief in the productivity of the working class and absolute commitment to cultural distinction and the almost deified personality cult of its leader. Pyongyang and other large industrial cities offer the most examples of modern cultural expression, with events designed to suggest that nation the world over respect and loves. Next, history for China. The country became unified by its first emperor, King Shi Huang, in 221 before century. 15 years later, China embraced a new dynasty led by Emperor Han, which rose to be the first golden age for the country. Standardized measurement, currency, written symbols, and the invention of significant products like paper and gunpowder helped China experience a period of rapid growth. The Republic of China was founded in 1911 by Sun Yat-sen. Meanwhile, the People's Republic of China was created by 1 October 1949. Culture of China. One of the China's most alluring aspects in its intriguing, unique culture. In the slide, there were pictures of the Kung Fu and the calligraph and the temple. Sorry, that was pagoda. That symbolize the culture of China. Kung Fu is commonly recognized throughout the globe, originating and still widely practiced within China. Also, Chinese culture can be seen through the unique architectural design of building design. Temples, palaces, pagodas, bell tower, and more provide fascinating insight into the beauty of China. Next, history for Mongolia. The great empire carved by Genghis Khan in the 13th century. The country saw the Imperial Chinese, Russian Empire, and Soviet Communists come and go before achieving independence without sacrificing its traditional rural way of living. As for the culture, the major influences on Mongolian culture are the millennia-old nomadic way of life and the esoteric, ritualistic Tibetan Buddhism, which became the dominant religion in the 17th century. The figure is a symbol of the country and its people's national identity, with a large part of the population still living in the traditional secular tense. Last one is Taiwan. The history of Taiwan is complicated and there is wide disagreement and ambiguity regarding its status as part of mainland China and who is ruling the islands. Technological innovation and industrialization allowed Taiwan to recognize rapid economic growth during the 1960s and 1970s, even while the ROC, which was Republic of China, maintained an authoritarian single-party rule. This growth, along with American support, allowed Taiwan to establish fiscal independence from mainland China. For the culture, Taiwan has a well-formed regional identity separate from mainland China, made from a blend of ideas and traditions brought by the various people who settled the region. The Taiwanese are a hardworking, family-oriented, polite, and pragmatic people known for hospitality. Food plays a large part in Taiwanese culture, with many activities and even festivals centered around food-based traditions. Temples, festivals, and arts are also colorful for this culture. My last point for this discussion is the organization that are joined by East Asia. The first one is United Nations. United Nations (UN) is an intergovernmental organization that aims to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations, achieve international cooperation, and be a center for harmonizing the action of nations. However, Taiwan did not include in this organization. The question is, why Taiwan did not join in the United Nations? This is because China opposes this. China argues that only sovereign states can enjoy membership in the UN. Any state that manages to enter into the UN system as full member in its own right is seen by the other member states as a fully fledged independent country. China also claims Taiwan as a part of its territory and denies that Taiwan is sovereign state. Secondly, East Asian Youth Game (EAYG). It is an international multi-sport event organized by the East Asian Olympic Committee (EAOC) and held every 4 years since 2019 among athletes from East Asian countries and territories of the Olympic Council of Asia (OAC), as well as the Pacific island of Guam, which is a member of the Oceanic Nation Olympic Committees. As for the organization, all of the East Asia are joined it. Next, East Asia Economic Caucus (EAEC), or the other name is East Asia Economic Group (EAEG). It was a regional free trade zone (FTA) proposed in 1997 by Malaysian Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad and encompasses the Association of Southeast Asian Nations (ASEAN) member states, China, Japan, and South Korea. Japan thought refused participation due to the exclusion of the Western nations, which were already members of the pact, and other notable regional organizations in East Asia. This organization also includes 9 members of ASEAN and China, Japan, and South Korea. Next, Economic Cooperation Framework Agreement (ECFA) is a preferential trade agreement between the governments of the People's Republic of China, commonly China, and the Republic of China, known as Taiwan, that aims to reduce traffic and commercial barriers between the two sides. The government of the People's Republic of China uses its influence on neighboring economic power to prevent them from signing free trade agreements with the Republic of China, Taiwan, which China claims that the ROC has been eliminated and so Taiwan is part of its territory. However, in this organization, there is an issue such as debate, referendum proposals blocked by MA administration, protests, and clash in the legislature. The last one is Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC. The APEC was initially inspired when ASEAN series of post-ministerial conferences launched in the mid-1980s had demonstrated the feasibility and value of regular conferences among ministerial-level representatives of both developed and developing economies. By 1996, the post-ministerial conferences had expanded to embrace 12 members. The development-led Australian Prime Minister Bob Hawke to believe the necessity of region-wide cooperation of economic matters. In January 1899, Bob Hawke called for more effective economic cooperation across the Pacific Rim region. This led to the first meeting of APEC in the Australian capital of Canberra in November, chaired by Australian Foreign Affairs Minister Gareth Evans. Attended by ministers from 12 countries, the meeting concluded with commitments for future annual meetings in Singapore and South Korea. 10 months later, 12 Asia-Pacific economies met in Canberra, Australia to establish APEC. The APEC Secretariat based in Singapore was established to coordinate the activities of the organization. During the meeting in 1994 in Bogor, Indonesia, APEC leaders adopt the Bogor goals that aim for free and open trade and investment in the Asia-Pacific by 2010 for industrialized economy and by 2020 for developing economies. In 1995, APEC established a business advisory body named the APEC Business Advisory Council (ABAC), composed of 3 business executives from each member's economy. In April 21, 2001, the APEC, in collaboration with 5 other international organizations, Eurostat, IEA, OLED, OPEC, and USND, launched the Joint Oil Data Exercise, which in 2005 became the Joint Organization Data Initiative, JODI.
Everybody, now it is my turn to explain about current issues in East Asia. There are many issues occurred in East Asia, as the countries in this region are varied in their political ideology. The first issue is the conflict of sentiment. As I've mentioned before, they are different in political ideology, and that is the main reason why the Korea split into 2 different countries. North Korea is a communist country, while South Korea is a democracy country. The conflict between these 2 countries has been a rise even when the World War II happened. The Korea War, which was the climax of the conflict, has brought the Korea to split into 2 different countries in 1950. Even though both countries are now having diplomatic relationship, it seems that there are still many North Koreans who are dissatisfied with South Korean. In 2019, the anti-South Korean, especially the army of North Korea, have made propaganda leaflets and sent it over its border in the south to provoke the citizens of South Korea. This problem is seen to be a long-term issue for this country to curb. The second issue is trade dispute
and trade war. The trade war happened within the region and beyond the region. The first trade war is between South Korea and Japan. The cause of a conflict was on export control about high technology materials was officially cited by Japanese government as the South Korea government not complying with export control and regulations to prevent resale of strategic goods and ignoring the Japanese government's request to hold export control dialogue for 3 years. However, on the South Korean side, it was regarded as retaliation to the Supreme Court of South Korea's decision regarding compensation. And further retaliation was agitated by Moon Jae-in, the president of South Korea, in late 2018. The trade dispute has caused a significant deterioration in Japan and South Korea relations to the lowest point since the two countries normalized their diplomatic relations in 1965. Next is the US and China trade war. The US and China imposed additional tariff on goods imported from the other countries, meaning buyers in the opposing country would need to pay higher import taxes to bring the purchases into the country. At its peak at the end of 2019, the US had imposed tariff on more than 360 billion US dollar to Chinese goods, while China had retaliated with import duties of their own worth around 110 billion US dollar on US products. US had even banned Huawei mobile brand to enter the market because they don't want that mobile brand surpasses iPhone sales in US. The next current issue is military conflict. North Korea is a well-known communist country. This country is competing with the US in terms of military technology and weapon. There are always issues arise between these two countries. North Korea always came up with the news that they want to test their nuclear weapon to the US and so on. 2017 marked a significant rise of tensions and amplified rhetoric from both sides as Donald Trump took the presidency after it appeared in North Korea's nuclear weapons program was developing at a faster rate than previously thought. In increasing rhetoric, as well as Trump's more aggressive approach to handling North Korea, missiles testing and increasing military presence on the Korean peninsula sparked speculation of a nuclear conflict. The fourth current issue is mental health. Mental health of people in this region is very concerning. In the spark of COVID-19 pandemic, the cases of committing suicide increasing especially in Japan, South Korea, and China. An organization commissioned by the National Police Agency of Japan stated the number of reports on online information about suicide instigation in Japan from January to June was more than quadrupled from a year before to 3,042 cases. In South Korea, last year's number is nearly a twofold increase from 4,947 in 2015, and the most of cases involving those aged between 9 to 24. Stressful life in the urban city has led them to take their life. The causes of committing suicide are money, stress because of study, family problems, and many more. Next, I will present about subregions and the map of East Asia. As you can see in this slide, these are the map of East Asia. This region consists of three sub-regions, which is Japan, the Korea, and China and the neighboring country. The first sub-region is Japan. It consists of only one country, which is Japan itself. The second sub-region is the Korea, which consists of two countries. The first country is North Korea, and the second one is South Korea. And the last sub-region in East Asia is China and its neighboring country. It consists of three countries. The first one is China. The second country is Mongolia, and the last country in the sub-region is Taiwan. Okay, let's move on to the last part of this presentation, which is economic activities. For the first sub-region, which is Japan, the GDP for this country is 5,081.77 billion US dollar in 2019. The main contributor for the GDP of Japan was in services sector, which was 23.5%, and the second largest contributor is manufacturing sector, which was 18%. As a leading country in economic activities, Japan had produced a lot of products, and the main industry for this country is motor vehicle. There are many brands that is being produced by Japan. For example, Toyota is the brand of car that is produced by Japan. The next sub-region is the Korea. The first country for this sub-region is North Korea. North Korea, officially known as Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, has an isolated and tightly controlled command economy. The GDP for this country in 2019 was only 18 billion US dollar. The main contributor for the GDP of North Korea is manufacturing sector, which was 47.6%, followed by services sector, which was 29.9%, and the last contributor is agriculture sector, which was 22.5%. The industries that are growing in this country is military products. They produce weapons for their army, and they also produce machine buildings. The other sector that is growing in North Korea is mining. Next is the second country in the Korea sub-region, which is South Korea. The GDP for this country in 2019 was 1,642.38 billion US dollar. Agriculture sector contributes the least for that year, which is 1.69%. Industry sector contributes 32.97%, while services sector contribute more than half percent, which was 56.77%. As we know, South Korea is popular with telecommunications and automobile industries. Telecommunication industry was led by Samsung, LG, and SK in Korea. Automobile industry also contribute a lot in GDP of Korea, as South Korea produces a lot of car, which from brand Hyundai and Kia. Kia and Hyundai are the the top two car brand in Korea. The next sub-region is China and its neighboring country. The first country is China. The GDP of China in 2019 was 14,342.9 billion US dollar. The main contributor was services sector, which was 53.9%, followed by industry sector, which was 39%, and the least is agriculture sector, which was 7.1%. The main industry in China was textile and consumer products. A lot of consumer products has been exported to the rest of the world. We ourselves can see a lot of China's product in Malaysia at the market. We can see in every places in Malaysia there are a lot of product produced in China. For an example, the phone Redmi was from China. Huawei also from China, and the plastics product, a lot of plastic products was imported from China itself. So we can see a lot of product made by China in Malaysia. Even though it seems to be like low in terms of quality, however, this product are one of the main industries. The products that we met at the market in Malaysia was one of the main industries in China. The second country under China and neighboring countries sub-region is Taiwan. In 2019, the GDP of Taiwan was 605 billion US dollar. The main contributor for Taiwan's GDP was services sector, which was 62.1%, and industry sector was 36%, and the least was in agriculture sector, which was 1.8%. Main industries in Taiwan is electronic, communication, and information technology products. Taiwan has semiconductor industry. The semiconductor industry, including IC manufacturing, design, packing, form a major part of Taiwan's IT industry. Taiwan's Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, and United Microelectronics Corporation, UMC, are the two largest contract chip makers in the world, while MediaTek is the fourth largest fabless supplier globally. The last country for the sub-region China in its neighboring country is Mongolia. In 2019, the GDP for Mongolia was 13.85 billion US dollar. The main contributor for the country was services sector, which was 49.7%, and industry sector was 38.2%, and the least was agriculture sector, which was 12.1%. The main industries in Mongolia are construction and construction material. The next industry is mining. The product of the mining sector is coal, copper, molybdenum, fluorspar, tin, tungsten, and gold. That's all from us. Thank you. Now, we are opening the Q&A session.